Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Snafu Radio, 1943 kilohertz on the AM dial. I am your host, Airman Dillard. If you haven't heard by now, what we know as Cracker Barrel has gone homo. They have decided that they are going to convert over to a transgender and all-inclusive, style restaurant. But first, before we get into it, a word from our sponsor.
Every soft, juicy drop of clitorius water starts as a single drop from melted snow high in the voluptuous Titius Mountains. It takes years of volcanic filtering before it reaches Mother Nature's orgasmoism aquifer, untouched by man until you lap the last drop, nature's finest water.
Over the past year, we have been very transparent about our transformation platform. And one of our strategies is really centered on that physical guest experience. And we've spent the last year testing and concepting various levels of remodels. All of these various levels have been rooted in our brand DNA. They've been rooted in guest feedback, and it's all about evolution with intentionality. We've been very transparent about our goal of making our stores feel brighter and even more welcoming than they already are, while maintaining that country hospitality and charm that we're known for. So when it comes to the overall experience, what you can rely on is items like our rocking chairs, our biscuits, our peg games, antiquities on the wall. None of that is going away. We're just looking at ways to freshen up the experience so that we can open our door a bit wider for more guests. And when we think about what we're trying to do, it really is, again, about listening to what the guests ask for, and examples of what the guests ask for are things like spaces that feel brighter, that feel less cluttered, more booth seating, more seating options, so our guests are more comfortable while they're dining with us. But again, it really is about taking that feedback and testing into various levels of remodels that, again, represent exactly who we are, but create a more brighter, lighter, fresher experience.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The Cracker Barrel that we have come to know and love with that southern charm is fixing to be no more. Yeah, according to Sarah Moore and CEO Julie Feces Misogynisto, which is now the new CEO of Crack My Bunghole Inclusive Safe Store, claim that a new logo is in store because the old logo is racist by having a barrel of crackers, and just the fact that a depiction of an older yellow man just isn't contributing and pulling his weight any longer. So a restaurant refresh and remodel is required to be more inclusive to today's society and gender-confused people. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, a brighter, more inclusive restaurant with tuck-friendly seating options is part of the remodel. Crack My Bunghole has also contracted with Tampon Tim to ensure the installation of female hygiene products in all bathrooms so that all transgender men and little boys who menstruate can have access to tampons and pads for their menstrual cycle. They will also be placing potty placards in both bathrooms for the gender confused and furry patrons to help them use the potty. Crack My Bunghole employees will also be training all wait staff and servers to ensure that every customer receives clean and sterilized eating utensils. Crack My Bunghole executives also want to ensure that during this transition that all customers and patrons will be ensured that they receive the same quality of food. Therefore, all food will be taste tested before it leaves the kitchen, before it is brought to you at your table. As part of Crack My Bunghole's new inclusive transformation, all employees are welcome to have anal sex in the kitchen whenever the urge arises, as long as it does not disrupt the food distribution. A recent post by Bud Light spokestranny Dylan Mulvaney said that this is the best business decision that a company could make, said that the old Cracker Barrel logo and restaurant was out of date and needed refresh to be more compliant with today's transgenderism. Well, according to Sarah and Julie, I mean, they're just going to screw Cracker Barrel up, just like Harley Davidson and Bud Light did, the North Face, other ones that have gone homo. Yeah, one of the things that comes to mind that Sarah said, what the fuck is evolution with intentionality? I mean, what the hell is that shit? And she also said, rooted in brand DNA. I don't think that Dan Evans, that his intentions were, 40 years down the road, that they're going to have a bunch of fucking homo tranny, people as servers, and it's all going to be gay and, bright colors and all this other stupid shit. I don't think that was Dan Evans, vision, for it. Sarah, she also mentioned that they have been transparent, for the last year. Well, if you go to the website and look at the news releases, now they could have, released, some other, had some other news releases, on other channels or whichever, which maybe they could have. But the only thing that they have on their website, as far as transformation, it was talking about financials. We weren't talking about anything about, converting it over to this, gay homo, restaurant style. There wasn't anything on there. And when you go and you click and you look, for previous news releases, I couldn't get past the 2025. The little drop down menu at the top, I couldn't change the year. And then you go down at the very bottom of the page, to advance, the pages. It didn't do anything. So they've got that locked out. So they don't want people going onto their website and and looking back, previous history. So again, as typical homos, I mean, they're lying, right? But they're going to keep the peg game. Okay, so they've done away with the original peg game, but they're going to keep the peg game. Of course, now that's going to be conforming, to the transgenderism, the movement. Make it inclusive, make it more inviting, for people to play the peg game. So it'll be all different rainbow colors, and then they'll have little dildos, and butt plugs on there. I just don't see how that this is going to be anything beneficial. If you look at their stock prices, I mean, this Cracker Barrel, okay, Crack My Bunghole, the new one, the stock price has already plummeted. I mean, it's already taken a huge nosedive. I mean, if they want to be inclusive, then why don't they change the name entirely and get rid of the cracker? Because cracker, I mean, that's a derogatory term, for a white person. So that's not being inclusive, right? They also had, come up with some new, menu items, which I don't know. I mean, okay, so what? You're going to come up with, the bunghole sandwich or something? I mean, what else? What are they going to put in, new menu items? I mean, are they going to have things, like the Schlonger stew, vagina power pate, filet of fecal matter, labia lasagna? I mean, are they going to have those types of dishes? Are they going to have, that inclusive? Are they going to have tuck-friendly milkshakes, furry cheesecake, to be inclusive, with the furry people out there? All right, well, let's get close. Let's wrap this thing up. But there is no end to the idiocy, of these libtards. There just is no end. You can't fix stupid. That's a friend of mine used to always say that. You can't fix stupid, and you can't. There's no help. I mean, only Jesus can help these people with their sickness. So I guess if y'all want, the Fermunda cheese sandwich, and you want the Schlonger stew and the vagina power pate, therian tea, the furry cheesecake, I continue going to Crack My Bunghole. I'm done with them. I don't eat there that often, but I do like to go there, but not anymore. I'm done. I'm not going to have any association with Crack My Bunghole anymore. So. All right, well, that wraps it up. We're just kind of a little bit over time, but that wraps it up for today. And I thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Airman Dillard, and you are listening to Snafu Radio, 1943 kilohertz on the AM dial. And I will catch you on the next ICT.